we can discuss. Now, did you notice how the energy shifted in the room? As soon as you're like, hey, let's talk, I can't wait to talk. Hey, how about you? Who likes talking about themselves more than you? That's why it's great to have relationships. Yet there's one relationship that you want to avoid at all costs, and that is the one-way relationship. Has anyone ever had one of those? I can give you an example. I can just say what happened. Who's ever been like 16 in this room? Now, back in 16, that was like 1988-ish for me. So take me with hair, yet I had a mullet that I had taken the tips and used sun in. I then also had 2 fake gold hoops in both ears, and then a cubic zirconia above the gold hoop up there. Now, I was like a catch all day long. So I was going to prom. This was my sophomore year, I'm going to prom. And man, I was going to prom. I already picked out the tux. It had one of those teal satin bow ties, the ruffles, the little thingy-dingy here, cummerbund. And I told everyone, hey, by the way, me and Missy are going to the prom. And I'm like all pumped up about it. I actually was dating Missy. Yet the catch is, she had no idea we were dating. She had no idea we were going to prom. I don't think she even had an idea I existed. So that could be a one-way relationship that you can have personally. Now let's think about business. Has anyone in here ever had a buyer? Raise your hand if you ever had a buyer. All right. Have you ever went and drove around in circles and showed all these clients properties? Anyone ever do that? And you're like, my client, my buyer. Yet there's one missing key piece to the relationship. They have no idea you are actually their buyer agent because you forgot or did not do what? So they go out and they buy a house, yet guess who they don't use? You, one-way relationship. One other one. Has anyone ever had a client for life? And you go around, my clients, my clients, my clients. And then one day you're driving down the street, you see a for sale sign in your client's front yard. And guess whose sign it ain't? Yet you thought for sure you still had a client for life. The issue is more than likely we suck at relationships, especially after the deal's done. Most of the world does this. They actually treat a relationship before, I know it's amazing, before business. In North America, we do it differently. We actually do a 180, a 360, whatever the reverse is. We go for the relationship after the business. Can you see the difference there? Especially when you're in a real estate business, do you think in order to have anything in real estate work, you must have someone that at least has a beating heart, which is a person, I've been told. And when you have that person in your life and they feel important, you think they're going to make sure we both know that we are in a relationship together. So we're going to really focus on the self-relationship, though, first. The reason why it's tough to have a relationship with anyone if you don't have a relationship with who first? Yourself. Who has a relationship with yourself and you're like, man, this is a tough one. One minute I'm like really happy about myself. Man, I'm looking good, feeling good. And then for some reason, like 33 seconds later, the brain flips and I go, man, I suck. Ever had that? Yeah, self-love and the self-relationship is the ability to value yourself as a person and embrace your what? Strengths and your weaknesses. Now, do you all know that we have more than likely more weaknesses than strengths? Do you focus on the weaknesses more? Yet we think about those internally, don't we? We're not good enough. I'm not good enough. They won't ever like me. She won't go to prom with me because she knew nothing about it. Yet, there's many assessments out there. Has anyone ever heard of the DISC? All right? Anyone ever heard like the KPA, AVA, OCD, ADHD, ACDC, OPP? Yeah, you know me. All right, awesome. That is not a relationship, I found out. Yet, when you look at behaviors, we're all made up differently. It's really important to know who you really are. So we're just going to cover the DISC real quickly here. For those of you that know what the DISC is, there it is. For those of you that don't know what the DISC is, guess what? There it is. Yet the DISC, the D is for what? Dominant, impatient, driven. Who in here believes that you're a D? Who in here has been told you're a D, yet you don't believe it? And then you have the I's, which are the influencers. They're the social ones. They will talk and 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 usually get nothing done. Everybody with two I's in the same room? Yeah, it's fun. Now, who in here thinks you're an I? Yeah, of course you're going to tell me. Yeah, I sure am. Then with the S's, we're doing steadiness. Now, steady, it's all about just going with the flow, right? Making sure that everything's okay. If they're hurting, I'm hurting for them, and I'm going to make sure I let them know. Who in here is an S? It's always good to see a couple of you in here. Thank you. And then we have the C's, which are compliant. It's all about the rules. The rules are made to be not broken, Foster. So who in here is a C? Where you really like it. Yet when you think about the DISC and you know yourself a little more, do you think it also helps you form relationships with people that also maybe have these traits? Now, what do you think I am up there on that chart? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, 100%. So I'm 100% D, a 96% I, a 3% S, and a 2% C. So do you see where leverage can also come in your life when you're, like me, a big train wreck? Yet it's all about relationships. So let's make the picnic of this here. This is awesome. The Chick-fil-A drive-thru line. Who's ever been through that? All right. So let me give you an example of how each person, behavioral style, would respond to this. Are you ready? I'm going to be the D first of all. There is no way in hell I am waiting in that line. I'm going to drive the next restaurant and say the exact same thing 14 times when I could have had my food, eaten it, and forgot all about eating, yet I still am driving around because of the fact that I ain't waiting in line. Anyone ever been there? The I's get up there, and the I's decide they want to have a conversation with the person through the speaker. Oh, I'm great. How are you today? Oh, that's great. So tell me how your day is. Meanwhile, the D's can't go to the restaurant because the I's talking to the person. Then you have the S's. The S's are like, oh, it's a long line. I know I've been waiting for a while, yet I really should let this person cut in front of me. Go ahead. Here comes the other person. Go ahead. That's why D's can't eat. Then you have the C's, and the C's are the ones that will go in chronological order from the top. I'm going to have a number 1 with a medium fry, lightly roasted, and a Coke with about 16 ice cubes. I'll take number 3 with 2 honey mustards, not 3, 2, of the 0.4 ounce packages. That's why C's can't eat. Yet then let's go to real estate. I love this picture here. It's a staring contest. Who's winning? Actually, that is a listing appointment. Who's ever been to a listing appointment before? Whoever desires to go to a listing appointment? Who's like, what in the hell is a listing appointment? Yet listing appointments are always fun, aren't they? You walk in, you're like, oh. The best is when the MLS picture looks nothing like the house you're actually walking into. Ever been there? And you're like, that'll set the whole mood right there. Yet, here is a D listing appointment. Now remember, you got to figure out that most people out there are not like you, so you need to start mirror match him a little bit without being too creepy, right? Yet, so you walk in, the list appointment goes for this way as a D. Hey, I'm here to list your house. Let's go ahead and list your house right now. I don't have any paperwork at all. We can just do paperwork later on. Let's go ahead and list it right now. Do you think that would work really well with a C? No, C would go, get the hell out of here. Then the I comes in. The I talks about everything except signing the contract. And they leave 3 hours later knowing more about skateboarding kittens than they ever did in their life yet. Man, it was a good conversation. Then you have the S's. The S's go in and they love everything about the house. Well, me and my wife, we went to Home Depot. 30 minutes, all we did. And we learned how to hang drywall in the basement. Want to go take a look at it? We're pretty proud of it. And you walk in, it's like a fun house. There's not a straight line in the whole place. Yeah, the S's are going to be, that's great. And the C's are going to come in with a 250-page listing. And they're going to clunk it down on that table, clunk, and they're going to go page by page. So let me start off. I was born in 1972. Now, could you imagine a D going through that? So it's all about knowing who your audience is going to be. Now, how do you think you can know in advance who the person is going to be? Social media. Who said Facebook stalking? Social media. What other ways can you do it? LinkedIn. What other ways can you do it? Correct. You should have talked to this person at least, or someone from your team should have talked to the person at least once, right? The worst thing is going in and not having any idea where you are, who these people are. I've done that before. And walk out with no contract, right? So we need to form relationships. We need to form what? Relationships. Robert Chalmers says, the business of business is relationships. The business of life is human connection. In order to have a business, you must do what first? The relationships, by connecting with people. So how do I do it? Well, I ask a question. So go ahead and ask me a question. Anything. Yes, thank you. I listen to the answer. This is tough if they won't write this down. And then rinse, repeat. Ask, listen, rinse, repeat. Ask, listen, rinse, repeat. Who in here likes to talk, yet you're already thinking about the next question before even the answer? I'm the only one that does that? Okay, awesome. Have you ever discovered that you're missing out on a lot of things they could be saying, which could help you build a relationship, that could help you then get back to them, either staying your client or becoming a client? It goes back to 7 seconds. You walk in, they don't like you, you have 8 more chances. Are you going to have 8 more listing appointments with this person? And that's where it's so important to ask, listen, rinse, repeat. Yet, there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind for business relationships to work. The first one is open communication. Now, what is open communication? Yeah, 2-way dialogue, 3 people, yet it's one person. It's amazing how this works. It's one person communicating with another person. Who's blown away? Because I was when I looked at that. It's one person talking to another person. Now, when you have communication, can you be a little more open about it, I guess you'd say? Has anyone ever been in a car with your significant other and everything's going great? You're driving, you're laughing. Oh, that was so much fun. And then you're driving and you look over and the person in the passenger seat's doing this. Hey, did you have fun? It was fine. Now you're attempting to communicate, yet it's tough to communicate with someone who doesn't desire to communicate back with you. So it's all about open communication. Then you must have empathy. Now, empathy also can be overused. Empathy is great when it actually is something that you should be empathetic about. If it's, let's say it's a listing and they've been on the market for 8,000 days and they haven't lowered the price ever, and they go, man, I wish my house would sell. And you're like, I feel really bad for you. You should slap yourself in the face for that one. Right? That's where empathy can sometimes also turn into sympathy, which are 2 different things. Then you have to do what? Stay in touch. Now, we talked about staying in touching. You can do it any way you desire, physical, social, whatever it is, make sure you stay in touch. Then you must reward that person. Who in here has ever had a client that you took care of, I guess you'd say? Where you maybe throw them a bone, maybe a deal, maybe a gift card to Starbucks. some wine that they won't drink. That's rewarding. And the last one is doing what? Tell the truth. Now, let's be honest. I might only ask you to be honest one time here. Honestly, raise your hand if at some point you have not been honest with a client before. Man, there's a lot of honest people in here. I've done that. So let me give you the setup for this. About 11 years ago, I walked into a listing appointment. It was out, I'll give you the picture right now. It's a 1960s ranch, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1-car garage. The typical thing, right? People live there since they bought the house in the 60s. And I walk in the dining room, and they have a wall, and the wall kind of looks like this right here. Now, this actually is a lot better than the wall that we had. Yet it was a cat mural. And it was fugly. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going to talk about the cat mural, and the woman keeps talking about the cat mural, the cat mural, the cat mural. I'm like, holy cow, that's awful is what I want to say, things that I did not at the time. And I said, well, where'd that come from? I didn't know how to even say it. And she said, my granddaughter painted it for me. And she smiled. I'm like, that's awesome. And she died last year of leukemia. And I'm like, that's not awesome. So we had lots of showings. We had an open house. And guess what every agent told me the feedback on the property was? That damn cat wall. Guess what I did not tell my client their feedback was? The cat wall. So 6 months passes by. I don't sell the house because of what? The cat wall. 2 weeks later, an agent comes to my office and goes, hey, Todd, guess what happened? I go, what? He goes, I sold the cat wall house. I said, what? He goes, yeah. I said, how did you sell it? With the cat wall. He goes, people came through, gave me feedback. I told the seller, but don't let the cat wall. I'm like, the seller's granddaughter who died of leukemia painted that. And he goes, yeah, I know. The seller didn't like the wall either. Do you see where honesty maybe can save or break a relationship? Can you see where it also took some profit out of my pocket? All because of one thing, I did not want to talk about the cat wall, although I probably had 100 feedback things talking about what? The cat wall. So the honesty is the soul of the business, which is something I should have known back then. Now let's go into the 3 types of business relationships that we should all focus on. The first one is strategic. Now, strategic is any relationship that you have that is going to create some sort of revenue for you in the future. So give me an example of what that could be. A VA. Who said VA? Awesome. Anything else? Investments, whatever you can do, right? Anything that's going to create wealth for you is strategic. The next one is going to be functional. Functional is like your colleagues, your work associates, your VAs. That's going to be your functional relationship. And the last one is personal. Now, who in here has a personal relationship with someone that is actually in your business or your industry that you have? Or maybe it's some vendor that yet you also have a personal relationship. Many of us have personal relationships, yet that's where we stop. We should also focus on making sure that personal relationship turns into what? Strategic. Do you have a personal and strategic relationship where you know that it goes both ways? I throw you a bone, you throw me a bone back. That is a strategic relationship. And that's what we must work on the most. So we're going to really focus on this, and you need to get to know the person first. How do you get to know the person first? Ask questions, listen, answer, rinse, repeat. Then you're going to figure out a problem that you can solve. Most people make decisions based on emotions. Most advertising out there is geared towards emotions. Has anyone ever sat up in the morning, you flip the TV on, and you see commercial after commercial like this? Involve a car rover, death, whatever, train accident, we can get your money right now. Great emotional sales. Great branding, marketing is emotional based. Are you also marketing to an emotional basis? Are you creating the solution for whatever problem it could be? Then we are going to do what? Ask questions, let's answer, and then do what? Rinse, repeat. Then we're going to build relationships. Well, that will then take you from relationships to transactions later. Most of us out there, including me, will focus on the transaction first. Man, when I close this deal, I'm going to go buy me a boat. Ever been there? Who's ever went and bought a boat on the way to closing without telling your wife about it? You hook the boat up to your Escalade at the time. You drive the closing. It's a domino effect closing. Someone has to buy the house, sell the house to buy the house. You pull up with your brand new boat hooked to your back of your car, and the closing doesn't happen. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah. Took the boat back. Of course, they gave me $3,000 less for the boat I had just bought literally 3 hours ago. Then you're going to get more return on investment. Who likes more ROI in here? Yeah, who really likes ROI in here? Yeah, ROI is awesome, right? Return on investment. Yet the biggest one, and this is when you really work the system really well, and that's your strategic relationships, it's this. You can have up to 50% more profits and 50% more clients. Who like to have that? Yeah. So it all comes down to the relationship with people, business-wise, that is going to be based strategically. The personal and everything else fits in there too. Yet, I have a question for you. Can you have all three? Can you? Of course you can. So let me give an example, a prime example that's personal for me. About 5.5 years ago, I'm in Colorado. And I'm out there, and my job that I used to be for, I had traveled to a location for 7 weeks in a row, do this event as an all-day event, and then leave. Some of you may know what I'm talking about, others may not. So I'm in Colorado, and this kid walks in. And he walks in, and he is working that room like, hey, how you doing? Hey, good to see you. And I'm thinking, man, that kid's got something. Yet I did something that I have never done before, and that's true up to that point. I never told the person, hey, you got something, you're going to be something. So we kind of hit it off, right? He was in the room, he was one of my focal points, he was taller, I could see him, and it turned into a personal relationship. Well, then it went into the other change yet then it went to strategic where, okay, how can we help each other make money? And it turned out to be an amazing thing. Now, you may know who that kid was, and it was Justin. This is what relationships do for you. He was one of the very few relationships that I had with someone that was in my room for 7 weeks. So when you have that feel like that person's got it, right? Well, you know they're not just looking out for themselves, they're also looking out for you. Make sure you embrace that and work that relationship. Yeah, a lot of people aren't like Justin. I'm going to give you 5 types that you may know. You may be this person yourself. Yeah, these are some objections or things that may get in the way of creating a perfect relationship. The first one is the seagull. Now, the seagull, what they do is they come in, like, shit everywhere, and then take off. Anyone ever had that happen? Now, I will admit, I have been a seagull in the past. And it's tough to work with a client that way. It's tough to have a personal relationship with that. Because you're like, oh man, here comes Foster again. What is he going to do this time? So the seagull is one of those first ones. Now, who in here knows a seagull? Who in here could be sitting next to a seagull right now? Yeah, let them know, will you? No, don't. Then the next one is the puppet. Who in here knows a puppet? The puppet's the one that can't think for themselves at all. They agree with everything someone else says because the other person has said it, yet they are really stuck on whatever the other person says they should do. Ever been with a client where one of the two people really desire to put a contract on the property? Yet there's one other person going, no, or no. I want to make sure I do both sides. I saw online that this guy I follow on Instagram says we shouldn't do this right now. Ever had that? You're like, please stop it. Or the other one is where they agree to disagree, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Nothing happens. This is where you have to make a decision. Do I keep the relationship or not? You can work your way through these, yet that's the other one. Who in here knows a puppet? Who in here doesn't know they're a puppet? Then the next one is God's gift to the world. Yeah, let me scratch that. Let me start over. This right here is God's gift to the universe. How do you know? Oh, they'll tell you. Man, they walk around, they're flexing, they look like this, and you're like, holy cow, what's going on? Then you have the wannabe superhero. They're the ones that want to save the day. The issue is they have no idea what they're going to do to save the day, and many agents can be the wannabe superhero. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I'm going to save this deal? How are you going to do it? I'll put some tights on and a cape and run around in circles. And the last one is the pain in the ass. Who in here knows the pain in the ass? You know they're there. They don't have to tell you. You just feel them there, right? So what can you do? There's two things you can do. Number one, you can have open communication, empathy, stay in touch, reward, tell the truth. Or you can kick them to the curb. Who's ever kicked the client to the curb before? So here's how you do it. Defriend them. Who's ever defriended someone? It's like, unfollow who's ever done that. I'm going to unfollow you and you won't know. The next one's a little more rare. This is called the unfriend. Unfriend is actually personal to person. It's not over the internet. It's actually saying we're done. And the last one is unsubscribe. Yeah, my favorite one is this. Bye, Felicia. So I'm going to leave with this, and this is it. Business, after all, is nothing more than a bunch of human relationships. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.